Hi there, welcome to the Shift Control podcast. My name is Paul McAnallen. Thanks for joining me in this episode. Today's guest is Kevin Young. Kevin is a certified professional practitioner of Compassionate Inquiry. He's also a facilitator, educator, and a circle leader. And if you're familiar with the work of Gabor Mate, you'll be familiar with Compassionate Inquiry. And if not, it's definitely worth checking up on and investigating further. I think this episode is going to be particularly relevant for those of you who own your business, who operate at director level or manage people. Given the current climate that we find ourselves in and the difficulties and challenges that you're all facing with recruitment and retention, it's relevant to cultural transformation. It's very, very timely. Currently, £70 billion a year is the cost of days off due to stress and mental health at work. So it's a problem that may get worse before it gets better, but will be ultimately affecting all business owners. I kind of hope you enjoy it. It's found it very interesting and a lot of stuff to take away from it, even if you're just curious about the subject. So without any further chat from me, here is Kevin Young. Thanks for taking the time out as usual, Kevin. Really appreciate it, man. I take it you're busy.
Well, flat to the mat, which is wonderful. Really, really good. Delighted that the world has gone online, and COVID for me was, I was about to say a godsend. That's absolutely the wrong term. But I did find silver linings in that cloud of COVID, in that, my client list just exploded around the world, just with, I have clients in Perth and Los Angeles and Georgia near Russia, Seychelles, Crete, Barcelona, and all because of Zoom, Teams, etc., and going online. And people seem much more comfortable and au fait with meeting online. It's just a thing now, isn't it? It's just a thing. So yeah, really busy. And anecdotally, probably 80% of my time is spent online in places like this.
Brilliant.
So it's been a godsend.
Yeah, I came back from COVID and living down in Strangford. I ended up having 4 clients in Fermanagh and Tyrone. And once they got over the proper impact of COVID internally, they were open for business again. So 3 days of the week, flying up the road for Fermanagh and Omagh. And I don't really mind the journey, but you kind of miss that there's a certain ease and a certain practicality involved of just being able to plug in and start talking. Your time's a little bit more it's managed better, it's like from time A to time B and so on and so forth, and then you don't have to deal with the rising cost of diesel and petrol and all that sort of stuff, which is really, really impacting anybody on the road at the minute. I'd say must be very, very impacted by that, But we spoke, or the last podcast we did, we've spoken since then on a personal basis, but the last podcast we did was in August 2020, and I was probably just when you thought things couldn't get any worse. We've landed ourselves on the cusp of the Third World War, and we have elected a bunch of arseholes back into to run this place. So I'd say you'd be busy now for sure. In your own parish, you'd be busy. It's mad, isn't it?
It is, Paul. It's and something that I try to keep close to my heart, Paul, is I was sent a beautiful email by a non-dual teacher of mine, and she was explaining that throughout this madness, this chaos, that she was reminding us to notice how our mind wants to solve problems that are above its station. That the mind wants to run off and sort out Putin and sort out the cost of living crisis, and our mind wants to do that, to go and get involved in these things. And of course we can't. So ultimately then there's that sense of failure or hopelessness that comes with a mind that's trying to solve problems above its station. And yeah, she was gently reminding us to do what you can with an open heart, a smile on your face, with pleasantness. Attend to what you can do with all your focus, and leave the rest. It's not yours to solve. And I really appreciated her email, because I would have a mind that wants to solve the problems of the new world. And when your mind's off solving the problems of the new world, of course, it's not doing the task at hand. It's not completing that spreadsheet, or it's not sending that email, or it's not attending to your work, the things that will get you results. So yeah, it is mental. The world seems to be a really crazy place. But we have to remember to keep our focus. Do what we can. Of course, be charitable, be generous, help who you can, where you can, and remind your mind to just wind its neck in, to use a very colloquial statement.
It's quite profound, and at the same time, it's like very obvious. We've talked before about the chaos that's reported on the news, those TV and radio programs, and even in the papers and wherever you consume your media from, that it's always designed in such a way to be fantastic, to be exaggerated. It's beyond the point of just reporting the facts now, and so there's an embellishment here and there to give a little bit more of a wow factor. And if you're I guess who isn't really into consuming media of varying degrees, and if you're working on any project and you're distracted by something that's going on 4,000 miles away, then the catastrophizing about Putin, for example, the catastrophizing about the cost of diesel, and you're thinking more comparing the past with the future and ignoring the now,
Yeah, and Paul, sometimes these conversations can seem quite conceptual and almost spiritual, but on a real human level, when we think about the neurobiology of fear versus performance, when we're in a fear state, and whether we know we are or not consuming all this media, when we're in a fear state, we're acting out of our amygdala and hippocampus, that old reptilian brain at the back of our head. And when we act out of there, our prefrontal cortex, the part that's doing the thinking and the planning and the solving, it's offline. It's not working. And this isn't just something that happens to those of us that aren't educated or are educated or are rich or poor, or this is just the human, the workings of human biology. When you're in a fear state, you're acting out of your amygdala, and your hippocampus and your prefrontal cortex is offline, isn't working. Doesn't matter who you are. Yeah. That's what's happening. So if you're trying to be effective and efficient and run a business or run a sales team or meet a sales target or complete a project, and you're consuming this media that has you in a fear state, you're immediately less productive, less efficient, less creative than you would be. So it isn't just a spiritual thing. Let's all chill out and let's not watch the news. If you want to be healthy, happy, productive in relationship to intimate partners, friends, family, colleagues, staff, customers, service providers, you need to manage your biology, your physiology, your neurobiology. That needs to be taken care of, and that is that's a practice. That's an action. That's a conscious decision to look after my own physiology, biology, and neurobiology. That's something we have to actively do, actively engage in. Otherwise, again, that mind just runs off and tries to end the war in Ukraine or the rising cost of living. So it's really important that we accept that we're a human being, all of us, at whatever level. And we need to manage our human vehicle, and whatever that is for you. If that's running, cycling, swimming, knitting, listening to music, playing guitar, meditating, cooking, walking in nature, whatever that is for you. It's more important now than ever to ensure that you're engaging in those practices that are helping you manage this organism that you're operating out of.
I think it's really important to label it as spiritual and to label the importance of it. I think it's hugely important. I worked with a client recently, and there was a time for me, maybe 12 years ago, where there was a lot of turmoil and upheaval in my life, a lot of it in a really short space of time. And a guy gave me the wheel of life, where they've got 8 or 9 slices of like a Trivial Pursuit pie thing, and every one of them had health, wealth, finance, spirituality, exercise, all these sort of stuff, relationships. And I took it into a client recently, and he said to me, he says, what are you bringing me this for? This is so out of date, Paul, And I said, well, let's go through it and see how you're getting on with that then. And there was a breakdown straight away, because he was going, if I don't do any of this, And if you're busy, which busy lives created by things we don't need, surrounded by mobiles and all that sort of stuff, you kind of forget the very, very fundamentals of the human condition, that we need to look after certain things. And some guys have covered it in a few books I've read recently. One guy talks about energy management, but that was the first time I'd ever heard it discussed in such a way, like almost like a technical way about managing and conserving your energy so that you are effective and efficient from 9 until 5. And the amount of teams and people that I work with, and maybe this is my second cup of coffee and it's 20 to 10, But the guys that I work with who'd be firing the Red Bulls in and Monster and all the energy drinks the first thing in the morning and another one at lunchtime and. It's
Paul, I think it's important just to mention it's not only from 9 to 5. This, living a life isn't about being efficient and effective in a workplace. Living a life is having that balance. You also want to be effective from 5 to 9,
yeah.
Whether you have kids or partners or social life, that's really important too. That's a really important part of this. If we want to be efficient and effective in the workplace and with our suppliers and customers, it's really important that we're keeping some of that energy for our families, our spouses, our partners, our kids, our friends. And I think sometimes that can get overlooked a little bit in these conversations about workforce and efficiency and effectiveness and energy management. This old idea of compartmentalizing our lives, I never really bought into that. The whole thing was my life, my work, my social life, my enjoyments, my family, my playing guitar, going to gigs, To be holistic, like that thing you're talking about, that argument, it's a wheel, it's a circle for a point, for a purpose, and it takes in all of that. It has to. We have to take in all of that.
Yeah, I get that. It makes sense, that everything is broken down into chunks of time by other people for us, when you go to school, it's like you start school at 9, you finish 25-minute break, the alarm bell will go, you get very, very distinctive times for lunch, for free time, and then you're into school, big school, university, into work. You start at 9, 37 half hours a week, and I think that's probably maybe something that's good to come out of it insofar as people working from home, getting the balance, seeing what it's like working from home, being in that, being around your family more often will maybe give it some more perspective. But it's interesting you say that, Kevin. I've always felt that I've been maybe ruled by the clock like that,
Yeah, and don't we all? I mean, no fault of your own, Paul. That's, as you just described, that's the society that we're conditioned to operate within. These parameters and where we should be at what time and for how long. And I don't know if I mentioned it the last time we chatted. There's something that still sticks in my mind, Paul. Years ago when I was managing teams in Vodafone, and we had a computerized scheduling, a rota system. A scheduling system. You just put people's names in, populated when people were working. But the day off, the day that you weren't working, the system repopulated that with rest day. And when I think about that, this how it was viewed by Vodafone, that the day that you weren't there was the day that you were resting for the next day that you were there. There was no thought given to this. Wasn't just a rest day. This was a family day, fun day, entertainment day, education day, a day for broadening your horizons. It was named rest day, as in the only thing you did was work and rest for work. That just told me something about. And I don't know that anyone thought about that consciously and said, let's call it a rest day, but from my schedules, I removed that. I just didn't like that term, that the day that you're not here, you're resting to be here. The day that you're not here, go and climb in the mornings and eat dinner with somebody and do a yoga class and enjoy yourself. It's not just work and not work. But there has to be more to life. And could I quote you something? I was watching a little webinar last night with the Insight Academy. They do these inner MBAs, kind of helping business leaders become spiritual and physical beings. And they had cited a recent study in the States, and they had questioned 15,000 business leaders across all spaces, law and banking and construction and et cetera, all of these people. And what they had discovered was that the most successful leaders, there was an absolute correlation to those that looked after themselves the best, who achieved and stayed in the highest positions in these different industries. A direct correlation. If you look after yourself well, you will be more likely to be successful, which is totally against what is fed to us, in that, the soldiers at the bottom, we totally believe that if you work 90 hours a week, you will scrabble your way to the top, and this is the way to success. But yet the people at the top don't have that train of thought. They're the people that look after their nutrition, look after their spirituality, look after they exercise plenty, they socialize and do other things. So we have been led to believe success is knocking your pan in for 90 hours a week. Cutthroat, competing, fighting with those within your organization and without your organization. And that's not the truth. The people at the top are not doing that. They're looking after, and this is 15,000 people, and a direct correlation. And I think now, with all the things we just talked about, the stresses in the world and cost of living and war in Ukraine and coming out of COVID, and it's really important that we start to embody those practices. Really important that we start to look after ourselves and look after each other. And of course, there will be the arguments of, I haven't time to do that. I'm too busy selling cars, or I'm too busy, building houses. And it's really apparent now that if you want to continue selling cars or continue building houses, you got to look after yourself.
I wonder when we kind of stop that, because I'm sure probably, well, there's a whole lot of reasons. Like, let's not go down that rabbit hole. You've got, like, in Ireland alone, you have maybe the famine followed by the industrial revolution, followed by capitalism, or whatever combination thereof, and people are going, I can do really well here. Our family didn't have anything. I'm going to break the cycle. I'm not going to be like that. And so they work themselves into the grave, and the son and daughter inherit the characteristics of, well, listen, I'm not going to be the one that brings down the family jewels. I'm going to do the same, and so on and so forth. A friend of mine I was talking to over the weekend, he works in London in media, very prominent positions, and he told me that he's been employed by a big social media entity, and they give him a signing on bonus, a significant one, and they also give him a day a month where he can they'll support him to find the person that he needs to be. Like if he wants to go and throw darts on a Tuesday all day, they'll give him money to go and take that Tuesday as long as that benefits his performance, and so on and so on. And you can see the list of benefits that these guys are offering. And I wonder, they're probably, they're successful enough to kind of realize that we're burning through people here. Human capital is people are what makes us work. We're not at the point where the algorithms and AI are going to make us brilliant. We still need people to be smart and well looked after. And it's just like it was almost like an invitation to some kind of retreat he was getting, It wasn't a job offer. It was like, honestly, it was, but they'll work him, he'll work hard, but he'll probably, he'll be alive for a lot longer than if he stayed at his previous job,
And possibly enjoy working hard and have low levels of resentment and stress, which will in turn lower his blood pressure and his cortisol and adrenaline levels in his body, which will mean he will be sick less, which will mean he will have less, violent interactions, with his colleagues and his suppliers and his staff. So for me, that's a wise move, in all of those levels: emotional, spiritual, physical. They're taking care of him, and I would, bet my bottom dollar that he will perform higher.
Yeah,
he will do well.
How many businesses do you know that will put in their recruitment ad, we will look after you. You get a pension and a company car. And it says that you'll work for 37 and a half hours, but there's a caveat there. You might every other Saturday, and you'll have the phone on call, and it'll be a small car, and it'll be a really nice car, and your computer will be a third generation, and everybody's definition of what good looks like changes. It's based on experience too, isn't it? Like you kind of, this is good because I didn't get it.
Yeah. Paul, I suppose now, when we think of our workspaces now and the market we're in, and how employees, certainly young people as well, I think we spoke about this last time, how young people are going to drive this market. A company saying, listen, we need you in here at 8 o'clock and you'll not be home to 7:30 at night. And young people are just saying, there's not a mission.
Completely.
It's not happening.
Completely.
I'm not working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. No, it's not happening. And I think when some of them are, you just named one. When our organisations start to realise that, their performance will increase. I think there's a great fear around that, the cost of doing this, staff slacking off, and all of our research says they don't. They perform higher, better, happier, less sick, less staff turnover, higher retention. But it's a brave move for an organisation. It's a long term saving, isn't it? It's short term cost for a long term saving.
I think it is. Yeah. Like if you wanted to, again, I suppose it's all about your internal truth as a business. If you're really honest and saying we want to be the best, our vision or our mission and brand values and everything we talk about is authentic, then if you're saying we want to be the best, like what does that look like? What is that? What is that immediate cost to the business? Because if you want to get the best people in, you're going to have to employ through salary, through training, and then all the different added benefits and bonuses and differentiators. But then, what is your real game plan for that? Because you can't just throw one person into an organisation who gets all the benefits without giving everybody else the same latitude. And how do you change your culture so quickly overnight that the authenticity is still there? That the people who are old school don't get put off by it, because that's to be taken into consideration too. These your colleagues that are sitting there and you're thinking these people are soft, they're not up for work, and which isn't the case.
I think you have to bring them with you, Paul. That's bringing those people, bringing those ladies and gentlemen with you that have been there 20 or 30 years. There are ambassadors for this change. We have to get them on board, and once they're on board, for me that changes culture. Or what they'll find, Paul, is that they'll find themselves left behind. Those people, they'll find themselves digging their heels in, and the world will move on without them. The world isn't waiting for you. You know, it's going to move on. This is the way we're going. And either you get on board or you put all your energy into resenting that change. And I know which one I would rather do.
So from your time, and I don't know how long ago it was that you were working in Vodafone, Kevin, you had a couple of different roles there. I think you were I say fast-tracked, if that's accurate. Internally, you ended up managing as well, selling all the way through the management level. And some of the companies that you're seeing today that you're working with, what do you see as the big changes from working in sales and that sales environment?
I'm really liking, Paul, how now, it's an interesting thing, because people that work with me, they're going to be that type of company that want to make these changes. You know, so I suppose I'm getting blinded a little bit purely by the fact that these people are reaching out to me, because if they weren't the sort of company that wanted to make this change and embody this culture, they wouldn't be reaching out to me.
Yeah, okay.
You know, so
fair point. Yeah.
So I probably have a little bit of bias. But what the difference I see now is that people are being held, trained, led compassionately. And let's not confuse, you know, just a little caveat, Paul, this idea with compassion with sympathy. You know, these aren't sympathetic. You know, they're not soft leaders. These are very ambitious companies, very ambitious leaders, want the best for their business, and know that the way to get their best from the business is to look at people the best. That's it. And you know, they're still willing to be ruthless enough, you know, say, listen, we're doing all we can for you. You know, we're doing this work, or we're allowing you this time, we're allowing you this space in your workplace, and you're not performing. You know, and you know, they will certainly manage people through and help them to perform, but they will also say, you're not right.
Yeah.
You're not right. So I think the big difference is leaders, compassionate and excellent leaders, are doing that work for their teams and rightly expecting a return for it. You know, this is business after all. You know, certainly we'll get you off one Tuesday a month. Certainly you'll get finished at 1 o'clock on a Friday. But you need to be delivering, and I think that's okay. It's a workplace after all. Whereas, you know, I think when I was in sales 15 years ago, it was just, you are here to sell. We don't give. We'll let on, we care. Yeah. We'll let on, we care about what's going on in your life, but ultimately we don't. You know, and a quick story that I can remember when my children were very young, and one of them was sick. And I phoned in to say, listen, kids are sick, you know, I can't come in today. And my line manager at the time said, can't your wife do it?
Yeah.
Do you not look after them?
Yeah.
And now you would kind of say to someone, could I just ask you to notice what you've just said? You know, could you just check in with yourself? Yeah. And notice, I've just told you that my kids are sick, that I'm under pressure at home, and you're just, in the patriarchal world that we live in, you have absolutely no acceptance that as a father, I might want to take care of my kids. And even back then, you know, I can remember saying to my wife at the time, as a man, could I imagine going to a job interview and saying, yeah, listen, really love your company, really love your organisation, and it's great, and I'd really love to work for you. You know, my kids are still young, and I do the drop-off at, 9 o'clock at school and the pick-up at 3. Could we work around that? Could you imagine me as a male sitting in an interview saying that?
Yeah.
Maybe now that would get seen and heard. Back then, it was just looked at as if there was something wrong with you.
Completely.
What?
Yeah, I'm not shocked but to hear that, and it's one of the things that, just as you say that, Kevin, I'm drawn to the idea that, maybe it's not a question of we don't know better, but you do a lot of things in life based on your experience, And so a lot of salespeople get promoted to sales managers because they're the best salesperson. And so what you have is this kind of native thinking that continues generation after generation. And when I say generation, I mean sales intake to sales intake, and nobody ever challenges that narrative. And I listened to a podcast last week where some guy was talking about the medical profession and dentistry and all this sort of stuff, where you can study for 7 years and come out and you're still a junior doctor. But you're in sales, you go straight in, and you're given the title of senior sales manager after 2 years or whatever. And, you've got all of this information inside, but your ability to communicate human to human hasn't been trained any better. And then you're turning on the news and then you're seeing Putin and so it's a tight spot for people to be in. And again, I don't think, I'd be interested to hear your view on this, but I don't think people fully understand the definition of empathy or compassion. And they do confuse them with sympathy a lot,
Yeah, I totally see that. And even with ourselves, so to be compassionate with ourselves isn't always to be sympathetic, isn't always to let yourself off the hook.
Yeah.
That's not compassion. Compassion is leading us towards the truth of what do I need to do to excel in whatever that thing is that I want to do, whether that's my own well-being or my sales or whatever. Compassion is inviting us to have a real hard, long look at ourselves, our behavioural patterns, our coping mechanisms, our survival strategies, and creating an environment where they can be viewed and they can be seen and can be worked with. That for me is compassion. It's leading us towards the truth of ourselves. Sympathy is saying, all right, sit down there and have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
No, that's not really doing anybody any good. Well, yeah, maybe in that initial 5 minutes it might be, but to understand why somebody is burning out, for example, why somebody is taking 4 days a month sick, we can sit with those people and even come back to that thing we described earlier, that chart. We can have a holistic view of their life and help them to recognize and see things in their lives that need to be changed, need to be removed. That's compassion. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes that's difficult. That's not sympathy. That's not being soft on people. And I think with that compassionate space, we invite people into that with the understanding that they need to change. They need to do something different. So they're invited into that space and supported to change. But if they don't want to, if they're resistant to that, then maybe they need supported to leave.
And that's okay too. That is okay too.
Absolutely.
This is not about, again, the definition of compassion is that sharing pain. I think isn't that about we'll travel your journey of pain together. So it's going to be painful regardless of whether you get through this particular moment that you face or the inevitability of not being here to face that moment somewhere else. But it's not about just give that lad a couple of days off there and tell that woman to go on home. She's not looking well. All these things that we've all heard and maybe at some point actually been saying to people. It's not. It's sometimes, and you quite rightly say, sometimes the biggest difficulty is being compassionate with yourself. And so if you can't love yourself and you can't feel emotionally attached to yourself and your own well-being, the chances of you being able to project that onto somebody else is very, or not project, but to get under their skin and to empathize with them is very difficult.
To model it.
Yeah.
To model it. If you don't know that behavior, if you don't know what's going on for yourself, then how can you model that?
Yeah.
You can't model it. And if you can't model it, then how can you expect people to follow? And how can you expect people to be, I love the word disciplined and disciple. If you can't model that behavior, how can you expect people to be your disciple? How can you expect them to be disciplined in their work and their own well-being if you're not doing that? And I think, again, that's something else is a little fracture sometimes in our management structures where our managers are shouting down this culture. Our culture is but they're not doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and you can shout at people and direct and have a cultural statement and a vision statement, and you can do all you want. If you're not modeling it, it's not going to stick.
There's the difference between how something looks and how something feels. You know, if you walk into a building and, you know, the office looks nice, let's replicate that. But you don't walk into a building and say, I wonder how these people feel, let's replicate that. You know, because that's really what it's all about. Stuff that you can't see, stuff that's not about, you know, really, really redundant, where once they're written, they're almost redundant slogans and proverbs on the wall. You know, if it's not in the heart, it'll never be on the wall. But that's a big jump for us, you know, for our society, Kevin. I think there's a lot of people didn't come from a place where, you know, you got your daily handout of love and affection, like, you know. And I don't just mean the north of Ireland, but we can talk about the north of Ireland. You can look at put it under the microscope, and you can look for a long time to see the compassion and the love in there for a few years.
Yeah, and that whole patriarchy, colonialism, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're not good at showing that to each other. We're not good at holding that space for each other. We're not good at we're not great at supporting each other through that. We're getting better. And we're not great at holding that space for ourselves. You know, I have a young daughter at home at the minute studying for A-levels, and she's not feeling great, and she's in a mad tiz, and she's a high-level student. She's in a mad tiz about being sick and crying because she doesn't want to take 2 days off to be sick. Rather than study, you know. And I said to her this morning, and compassion and maybe hard hitting, and I said to her, Rosa, don't let your stubbornness make you stupid. You know, like, don't be so stubborn that you won't allow yourself to take 2 days off and heal and recover and get well and then get back into your study. But this idea that we just have to keep plugging and going and plugging and going, you know. And I don't know where she learned that. And multiply that by 1.5 million people, you know, or multiply that by a whole nation and a whole society. So her lack of compassion for herself. And she's an intelligent, well-educated young woman, you know. You wonder, Kevin, if the stuff that went on in the 1980s and the 1990s is only, you know, chicken feed compared to the stuff that's going on today with the pressures on social media and the ever-presence of that. You know, we had some respite from all the bullshit. Albeit, you know, I'm not belittling what went on, but if you think of the emotional and psychological torture some kids are under because of the expectation that's placed on them not by family, but by society, by the Kardashian family, and, you know, all this sort of stuff, like, and the lack of responsibility that those platforms take in creating this mythical unicorn human being. This is what you must look like. It's crazy. Like, yeah,
crazy.
And Paul, I love how these things all align as well, because we bring that back to physiology and neurobiology and dopamine hits and addiction and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, that I switched all my socials off after Christmas. And then I'm doing a little bit of work where I had to switch them back on again about 3 weeks ago. Switched them off, never missed them. Was glad to see them gone from my life. My reading went up, you know, my meditation time went up. No social media. And then I switched them back on to keep an eye on this project I was doing. And I now find myself sitting with my phone, scrolling through shit. And it just has me again. It just has me buying. Like, the stuff that I'm looking at is nonsense. It's of no benefit, but it is just that it is offering me that distraction, that easy distraction, that hit of dopamine. It's kinesthetic, it's audible, you know, it's touching all my buttons. It's got bright lights, it's got bings and dings, and I just see myself again getting sucked in. I'm thinking, whoa, stop, Kev, what are you doing? But just how easy that is, you know, and I'm fairly aware of these things, but switched it back on, and immediately sucked back into that social media infotainment thing. And I can't wait until this project is over again. It'll be over in another 4 weeks, 6 weeks. I can't wait till the project I'm working on is over so that I can switch them off again and just say, be done with that.
We kind of have moved from back in my day, I'm guessing your day because we're of a similar vintage here, but Robert Maxwell was the devil, Rupert Murdoch was the devil, Elon Musk's really cool. Do you know? He's a really cool guy, isn't he? He's saving the earth and flying to Mars and all that, and is going to buy Twitter, and Zuckerberg, like those guys are just the same as their predecessors. And how long has it taken us to wake up to go, hang on a second, this is not for our benefit. None of this is for our benefit. And just to put something in here, Kevin, because like one of the things that you said beforehand was, I mean, we could take a whole lot of different angles with this conversation, and your curiosity around maybe how spirituality might be received in this, or that our conversation might be received. This is as relevant as any marketing strategy or any business development strategy, for the simple reason that good people are hard to get. And good people are hard to keep within your business. And anybody listening to this, as I would imagine some will and some definitely won't have held the mirror up and going, Christ, we need a change here. Because this conveyor belt is going in the one direction and we can't pull it back. We can't make a detour. And so we are either going to get swallowed up by it, and we're going to have the worst people in the world coming to work for us and leaving after 3 or 4 weeks. We will have no consistency. Our brand values will shop. Our customer service will drop completely, and we'll be in big trouble. Or let's pivot while we can. And this is a sort of conversation that people kind of need to be having internally. This is the sort of stuff that salespeople need to be having at home with their partners. This is the sort of conversation that a guy running the business needs to be having with himself, because a lot of this is fixable.
Yeah.
You can't switch off your social media. You can't stop people in your office drinking Red Bull, or educate them, or bring in fresh fruit, or pick a charity and do sponsored walks and be out of the office, or give them an extra couple of days holiday and say it's for you because there's a voucher to go to a spa, or whatever it is. But this really about how much you value your human capital in the business, isn't it?
And what else is there? What else is there, Paul, apart from your human capital? If you don't have human capital, what
let's call them people, Kevin. Let's not go into fucking human capital. Let's call them people.
Let's call them people. Yeah,
we're at it.
That term. If you don't have people performing at a high level, staying in your business, embodying culture, you don't have a business.
No.
You don't. So speaking of that, Paul, a really simple example for me of that is I've helped lots of people open, hospitality business type things, and I've seen people spend 140 grand getting out a cafe. Nice counters and, pallets sanded down and into nice artwork and et cetera, nice kitchens and trendy coffee cups and et cetera. Trying to get them to spend 1,500 quid to train their staff. No, I'm going to do that. Yeah. Trying to get them to spend an extra 4 or 5 grand a year to lift them 2 quid above minimum wage. Not going to do that. And it saddens me and frustrates me to think, this sort of fur coat and no knickers. We've just spent 140 or 150 grand on the fanciest coffee shop, and staff haven't a clue. And this isn't the staff's fault. They just haven't been trained. They haven't been trained in emotional awareness, emotional intelligence. They haven't been trained on how to relate to people. They haven't even been trained on the workings of the business, on the culture, on the ethos, on what we like to present to people. And yet, that business owner expects to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's a real live work. And I see that often. It's a real live working example of that for me. Instead of taking people, as you say, and helping them learn who they are, what they're about, what are their drivers, what are their values, what are their triggers, what upsets them, helping people to learn a little bit about themselves. And that includes their spirituality, where they belong in the world, where they belong in their own life. We'll spend an extra $4,000 and get a Terry Bradley piece of art for the wall, because that'll be cool.
Yeah, that's.
Hey, by the way, Terry Bradley's.
No, I know. I was going to say, but I was going to say I can think about 6 or 7 people that would have supported Terry's pension, and they think that's the job done, and you're going, really, like, it's and everybody has got so many examples of that, where you go into a shop, or you're speaking to a person, or that engagement that you have is just below what you expect, okay? But the expectation of the owner of the business is, no, we're doing really well, like we're doing really good, and like it's hard to hold up the mirror sometimes. It's I kind of get that. Some of the clients that I work with, none of them have got a quirky name above them. None of them are called Nike or Google. A lot of them have got the business owner's name above them, and like my father ran a shop way back in the day, and because of the name, it means something to that community. And
yeah,
I think that I used to call it the McCarthy Bar Syndrome, where, bars called McCarthy's Bar way down in Cork, and I'm not changing the name of it, like, because it's my dad's name and it's my name, and I can't change it. That means I'm not going to do anything in the inside of it, and so it looks like a real cute little Irish bar that everybody goes to. But after a while, people don't want that. They want they want a modern bar. They don't want to see the smoke stains on the ceiling that haven't been painted over, and you think it's authenticity, and they think it's dirt, And making the big jump, that seismic jump, and it is challenging for business owners who've inherited businesses, I totally get that, to move in a direction that that still fits the family dream, but is moving in line with that conveyor belt, because that conveyor belt's not going to slow down for you. And if you ever try to walk off or walk onto a conveyor belt that's moving, like, you just judder, you fall on your arse sometimes, And I think that's really difficult. Like, I don't. It's all well and good sitting on a podcast and chatting the chat, but there are certain practicalities to it, and but there is an inevitability. So there's an inevitability of this tsunami coming at them, and some of them are just geared up for it, which is, it's going to be hard for them. It's going to be hard for them, like.
And when you talk about your people, Paul, who are going to help you work through or surf this tsunami? Who's going to help you do that? It's your people. It's your people that's going to help you do that, and investing in people. Can I share one other quick story with you? I just love these real life stories. I was out on Saturday night for my wife's birthday. 10 of us went out, a new place that has been purpose built in my locality. Apparently built at £15 million. Beautiful new place. They make their own alcohol, lovely restaurant, great. And we went there for a meal. And it's lovely, it's decked out, not, no expense spared, and the tables and the chairs and the paintings, and they're glorious. And I don't drink, so I was sober, and maybe that helps with that, to be able to look and see. And I suppose I'm coming from a hospitality background, so I'm kind of just viewing things as they unfold, And our table was booked for 8:30. Okay, great. So we arrived, and they took a drink order. Great, it's all lovely, brought around our drinks. But these are 10 people. We haven't seen each other in 2.5 years, for COVID. So the conversation was flying, lovely. And the young girl, not even young woman, she looked 18, 19, came down to take our order. And she says, are you ready to order? And I said, you know what, conversation flies, maybe give us another 5 minutes. I said, I'll round them up here. I'll give them a shout. We need the order, round up. And she says, our kitchen closes at 9 o'clock.
Class, boy. Oh, thanks very much for that. Yeah, that's, yeah.
It's like that immediately, right? You're not welcome here. Can you hurry up? You're not welcome. And that's one of those, I thought, yes, okay, your kitchen closes at 9 o'clock. Could you be trained in a better way of delivering that message? You know, is there a way to, not the young girl's fault, you know? And then I noticed that, so by the time they were taking order, there'd no other orders going on. And when they came out with our food, so it's quite a swanky place, you know, come out with our food, and rather than knowing that you had ordered a medium rare sirloin steak and set in a plate in front of you, you know, they came to the table and said, sirloin, who's having the sirloin, medium rare sirloin, medium rare, you know, Jesus, you know, and just those, well, for me, see those simple things of taking that young girl and saying, let me show you how to do this. Just write a little number down. So they're beard and glasses, sirloin steak.
Yeah.
Red dress, chicken steak. What, you know, whatever. Yeah. Or even numbering those seats. You know, in a system where that young girl can know, okay, person in seat 1 is getting a medium rare sirloin steak, and they walk out and they set it in front of you and say, there's your medium rare sirloin steak, sir. Yeah. The difference in that and sirloin, who's having sirloin? Yeah. The difference in that is immense to a customer experience. You know, that is massive to a customer experience. But the young girl hasn't been shown. You know, they've spent £15 million building this place, kitting it out. Food was lovely, you know, kitting it out. But no one had helped that young girl relate to the people that are in the restaurant. And if we take that simple example and bring that into our construction, bring that into our manufacturing, bring that into our software engineering, bring that into our, you know, whatever realm we bring it into, that happens everywhere. Yeah. You know, just those little micro engagements with our customers and with our people, that if you do that right, we'll have you a customer for life. You know, we always talk about the person that can deal with a complaint right has a customer for life. Yeah. The person that can't deal with that complaint right, the customer walks out the door and never comes back. And that's in the looking after our people. I don't know what time that wee girl started working at. She could have been there from 10 that morning. She could have been knackered. I don't know. But she hadn't been supported through that. She hadn't been supported through that process. And I gave that feedback. I sent in a little bit of feedback into the restaurant, very nice feedback. But there was a party of 10 people. To give them that just little bit of that personal experience. And there's 10 people going to go home. Oh, I was out in, have you tried that new restaurant? Lovely. Service was great. And they're going to bring back 100 people. But not paying attention to that cultural, human interaction. Again, you know, that ethos, how we do things. When that's not paid attention to, you can be sitting on gold thrones. Who gives a shit? Yeah.
So here's an interesting one on that. I maybe we've discussed this before because it sounds very, very familiar. I listened to a podcast or read in a book somewhere where a restaurant in the States, typically in the States because they're good at this, you know, and they had a little tactic where the maitre d' or the front of house guy would say, is this your first time in the restaurant? And if they said yes, what they would do is they would give them a red napkin instead of a white napkin on their table. And the waiting staff, when they saw the red napkin, would behave in a different way, but really just to embellish their values. So they would be all over them like a rash, but very tastefully and tactfully and all that. And the second time they came, they would ask them, have you been here before? And they would say, yes, we have. We were here one other time before. They would still give them the red one. And then the third time they would give them a white one because the white one was basically, these people have been here a lot. So you've got to give them 10 times what you give the red napkin. So they always had it as a highlight. You're telling the front of staff, it's really important. And you're totally spot on when you say like an 18-year-old girl really is like the junior doctor. You know, she's only starting the journey. She's not supposed to know what's business critical or what's not. She's like maybe had eaten in restaurants where so who's looking to serve? That's all she heard, you know. And there was a place that just to sort of match your story I'll raise your story and trump you another one. Or maybe not. We went to a place that won't remain nameless, and places in Dungannon, and myself and herself went out for a meal, and I had raved about this place because it's really good at lunchtime. We went in on a Friday night, and it was kind of empty. There was about maybe 5 or 6 other people sitting in a restaurant that could take, I don't know, 50, 60 people. So I was immediately in the back foot trying to apologise for, it's obviously just a poor night. And I was defending the restaurant, trying not to, betray my referral and recommendation. And we sat and we got food, got some wine, got some more food. And then about 9:30, the Hoovers started coming out to hoover up the other part of the restaurant. And they took one of the staff took the till out and went into the booth beside us and started counting the money. So we just started laughing. We started laughing, and we'd hear them talking about heading down to McAlear's afterwards for a big session because somebody was leaving or somebody's birthday party, and they were talking about this. We could hear all this, and it was like, we're really unwanted here. This is distinctly tangible. Get out. So we called the taxi, got in the taxi, laughed all the way back to Moy, which is not that long a journey. We were still laughing when we got back. But I thought, you know what, if I'd have invested 5 or 6 million or 2 million or 600 grand into refurbing this restaurant, I thought I probably want to know that went on, and I'd be a critical, I would kind of, I use the word critical. I would like to think I do it in fairly well intentioned. So I thought I'll go and see them, and I called in one day and I said, can I speak to the owner? And this girl came over and she says, how you doing? And I said, look, I'm going to say this on the basis it doesn't get anybody into trouble. But I was here on Saturday night and I told the whole story. And she said, thanks very much for telling us. That's really brilliant. And when I went and had some food, and the girl came over and says, we're going to give you your dessert free. And I'm going, no, I don't want that. It's not like £6 worth of advice I give you. It's like, and they missed the point completely. And they're probably going to struggle to get through. And if I was working there, if I was sending a child there, if I was working there, if one of my friends worked there, you'd wonder what else they're taking home as well as the pay. Are they taking home any interpersonal skills, how to serve a table, eye contact, how to make more money on tips, how to be nice to get people to feed your, petrol in your car or whatever. And there's none of it. And then there's a circle, though. There's a circle. What comes first? Do you walk in knowing that the people aren't going to be there? They're not going to be loyal to you, so you just pay them minimum wage and treat them like a, production line? Or do you stop? Where do you stop the cycle and go, no, we're going to pay them more. We're going to give them good meals when they come in. We're going to give them a nice takeaway. We're going to give them a taxi home. Where does it start? It's tough. It's tough for them.
I think that it starts with a decision, Paul, doesn't it? It starts with somebody deciding that I'm going to do something different here, and I'm going to put my neck on the line, and I'm going to take a gamble, and I want this to be different. It starts with a decision. I noticed there recently, I was chatting to another friend of mine who was in senior management in a big coffee retailer, and I was in the sauna with him on Friday night. But I was telling him that I noticed that there was a bar, I can't remember the name of it, Paul, there was a bar on the Lisburn Road advertising for student staff. And the student who was successful in getting the job would have their first year university fees paid. This is part of their package. They would have their first year university fees paid, and 3 runners-up, so 3 people who applied but didn't get the job. So this is just if you did well in an interview but didn't get the job, you were given a £500 study voucher or book voucher, whatever that was. So here is a business on the Lisburn Road that is recognising that to get good people, we need to do something different. We need to offer something different. We are not going to get good people if we pay £6.68 an hour and just buck them behind the bar or into the restaurant. And that for me indicates that establishment is really confident in its ability to choose the right people to come work for them. You're going to want to be really confident. If you're going to offer $3,000 or $5,000 university fees, you're going to want to be fairly confident in your ability to choose the right people, and you're going to want to be fairly confident in your ability to train and retain that person. So just the fact that they're offering that to me says there's so much more, I would hope, going on in the background. Here's what we're going to do, but they should, I imagine they would have some sort of culture policy behind them that makes sure that investment is worthwhile. And, when I said this to my friend who manages coffee retail stores, he was kind of aghast. He's like, nah, mate, we're just pulling them in off the street with a shepherd's crook and giving them an apron and throwing them behind the counter. And their turnover's high and their sickness levels are high. And I think, yeah, so...
You can join the dots there, can't you? You can see where that comes from. And I suppose it's that really overused idiom of, what if we train our staff and they leave, and what if we don't and they stay? It's like you have to really front this one up. Like, this is, if there's a leak in the roof, you got to fix the leak in the roof. And if you want to, it's about authentic. It's about, it's really core business fundamentals, and stuff. You move away from you're not in manufacturing, you're in service. You serve somebody. You're not in software sales, you're in service. You're not in coffee, you're in service. You're not in construction, you're in service. And so if you admit to yourself as a business that you're serving other people, then how can we outserve the competition? How can we overserve our customers? And how can we do that so that it still falls within the tram lines of being a successful business? And you'll find the tram lines widening once you do that, because you'll be just... Absolutely. It'll eat itself. It'll just keep on eating itself,
Absolutely. And Paul, that all has to work from top down.
Yeah.
That all has to be top down. If you want your sales force treating your customers in a certain way, you need to treat your sales force in that way by your middle managers or whoever. And if you want your middle managers treating your sales force that way, then the director or the CEOs or the financial director need to be treating the sales force manager in that way, and it has to go top down. It has to. Otherwise it doesn't work. Because if you're shouting, if the manager director shouting at the finance guy, and he's shouting at the sales force manager, and he's shouting at the sales force, then they're shouting at their customers and clients. Shit rolls downhill, as the saying goes.
It does. It becomes tolerated. It's tolerated behaviours, and then you're back into that whole idea that your brand is the behaviour and attitude of your staff. It's not anything else. Your brand is how everybody will have examples of where they draw the line and what they tolerate and what they don't tolerate. And in your own personal life, you can see things where the experience has been undermined by the expectation has been undermined by the experience. And so your Saturday night out, your expectation was moderately high. They delivered something beneath it, and all of a sudden that gap in the middle is just disappointment, and you can't contain that. You can't pretend to your other half, they tried, it was good. You can't polish a turd, as they say. If it looks like it is bad, chances are it's bad. And a lot of people don't know what it feels like to be sold to by themselves. How could you know what it feels like? You have to record that experience. You have to do mystery shopping. You have to get a benchmark. You have to get record calls. You have to see customer complaints for what they are. You have to record them. You have to put it out there and let that authenticity make it real. These brand promises on advertising and on slogans and ambassadors and influencers just telling lies, because the ones that call it out are the ones that will be very successful, I think.
Yeah, and Paul, and saying it's for me, it's really important, because I work with organizations like that, mystery shopping and all of that sort of stuff. Customer feedback, etc., etc., etc. I worked and went into a lot of organizations that use that as a stick to beat their people with, rather than using that as a method of raising the tide. That rising tide floats all boats. Completely. And it's about supporting someone. This person said when they dealt with you that you were very difficult to get on the phone. Whatever that is, how can we change that? How can we support you through that?
Yeah.
What is it that's happening for you? What's going on, or whatever that is. So using those tools to better your business, and not using those tools as a big stick to beat people up with.
That's right.
Because again, if you're beating people up with them, they'll be anxious, they'll be frightened, their bodies will be full of cortisol and adrenaline, and they're not sleeping well, etc., and you get into that downward spiral as opposed to an upward spiral.
Absolutely, and there's no disguising this. This is like a really badly kept secret in the automotive sector and in a lot of retail, is that your manufacturer or the franchise owner or whoever's measuring you will use the mystery shop to beat you. And sometimes you will lose bonuses if you don't answer the phone. Good afternoon, company X here, how can I help you? Or if you say hello, good afternoon, and really perky and you sound brilliant, you'll get penalised because you didn't go through brand values and stuff. And so from the very top, in the finance department say, well, we lost 40 grand this year because your customer service staff, Mr. Sales Manager, aren't answering the phones properly, so you got to fix that. So it is this downward spiral. And the even worse than that is that the salespeople know a mystery shop a mile off, so they're all ringing each other and saying, oh, she's here, oh Christ, she's here, quickly, everybody up your game. Instead of going, oh look, there's a customer, everybody up your game. It's like we can't get measured down on this, and I think that's maybe changed, and the automotive industry is changing, and they'll have to do something with that. But in retail as well, like you can't be, there has to be some benefit in going through a recording with somebody and saying, how can we fix this? How would you want to be treated? What do you think is the best thing to do there? Rather than saying, you're not doing this job right, we have to get rid of you. Like, it's
And Paul, I know from personal experience, the work that I do now with Compassionate Inquiry, and I'll bring a recording of a session, we'll work with a client, with client permission, of course, bring that to Gabor Mate, and we'll review that, and to be held in that way that, when he watches this video, he doesn't care about the client. He's not interested in the client, It's what's happening for me. What's getting in the way of me being an absolute clear mirror, a compassionate, non-judgmental space for this client. It's about me. What do you need, Kevin, to help you clear that for yourself so that you can sit in front of that client and be the absolute best that you can be? And I have never experienced that before. Never. It was always used as a stick to beat me, and you need to do better and sort that out. And to be held that, and don't get me wrong, the starting points are the same. Where we want, or me in this example, to get to is the same. But how we're doing that, the bridge that is covering that gulf between not as good as I want to be and as good as I want to be, the bridge that travels that distance in the world that I'm in now is one of compassion and holding and support and reflection, and it's not one of beration and condemnation and shame, which we in our olden days of sales, which is what we found, and I respond really well to that. I respond really well to that encouragement, reflection, introspection. And being allowed, Paul, I think that being allowed to say, yeah, I noticed something about myself got defensive when that client said that. I noticed that part of me shut down. I noticed that part of me went offline. I noticed that I wanted to prove myself right. Being allowed to say that in an environment is just so rewarding and enlightening, to be allowed to look at my blind spots and not be criticized for them.
That's
and be
deadly.
supported through them.
Yeah.
And imagine that in our construction and sales and software and,
totally.
and hospitality, and imagine that.
Totally.
And my skin's tingling talking about that. Imagine how infusing that would be to help someone see a blind spot or something they're having difficulty with, and really support them in it.
I think that's I think it's a fantastic idea and thought. You're using words there that perhaps people in business don't necessarily put in the same sentence as profitability, but all of that leads to happier workforce and happier people, more contented people. And what you're really doing is getting under the skin of a universal problem, but applying interpersonal skills to make somebody feel better about being human, because they do make mistakes. And I got to say that, like, my experience in sales was, this is not a confessional moment for me, maybe it is, but my experience in sales was one of, you'll fucking do it, right? And, get on with it, the fuck. And maybe not as polite as that sometimes. And then when you do hit a space where people care about you, you kind of think there's something fraudulent about them because you haven't experienced that before. And then whenever you become a manager, which in my case, in a couple of instances where I became manager, I wasn't able to disconnect the authenticity, So my default response was, hard work, lads. That's what I had to do. You have to do that. And that isn't the case. That isn't the case, because there's absolutely no proof that hard work works. There's no proof.
Well, at the start of our conversation, that webinar I was on, and they quoted the study of 15,000 high-ranking professionals, and they have proven that there is a direct correlation between looking after yourself, being supported, is what makes you successful and keeps you successful.
Yeah,
and the correlation's there, but yet we're led to believe that you need to knock your hand out.
And that's the definition of hard work. The hard work is like, almost till breaking point, because if you're not breaking, you're not doing it right. And like, there was no space, and I love the way you talk about that. The language you use is like really, really. You get a sense of comfort from hearing you use that language, whereby there's a space made for you to feel bad, and we'll make you better, and we'll understand that. And it's not this kind of woo-woo stuff that this won't ever work because, geez, you're too soft. And the inevitability of this people change, the Great Resignation, we won't tolerate generation coming through, is going to prove that this is the only way to do it.
Yeah.
There's no choice. Like there's no choice. It's not like an A or B, blue or red pill. It's like you have to do this. If you're serious about the longevity of your business, if you really care about your staff, if you really care about your customers, which is on everybody's strapline, you have to care about your first customer, which is your staff.
Absolutely. That really hits the nail on the head. And because when you care about them, how they interact with each other, the internal customer is the real buzzword. How they interact with the internal customer just spills out into their family life, their relationships, their work with their clients and suppliers and management structures, and we get a rising tide. And if you're not in, you're getting left behind. It's heading one direction. Go with it, grow with it, or stagnate and fold. Well, maybe not even fold, but certainly stagnate and struggle.
Yeah.
And have it really tough. And I think that the important thing is that we then give, for me anyway, is learning to give people that responsibility. If they don't want to do it, it's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. I'm here to support you. And if you don't want to do it, then great. Just let me go. I'll go work with someone else.
That's right. That's right.
It's you get to choose. You get to choose. There's nobody forcing you to do anything. But for me, and in the world the pond that I swim in, if you want to grow and learn and get better and more profitable and more efficient and more effective and have longevity and have ambassadors for your business, start to adopt these policies and procedures that look after people. Start that now. I'll tell one quick story. I'll just for finishing. Again, the organisation that I am in now, and we had put 100 people through a course, a programme, which is brilliant. And there then was a little bit of a complication at the end with the systems we use and getting them a certificate for the work that they've done. And the system was showing that some people hadn't completed the work. The back-end system was showing that people hadn't completed a certain amount of videos and time and stuff. Whereas their front end system, what they were saying, they had done all the work. It was just a system glitch, you know. I've done the work. You're telling me I haven't, you know, and there was a bit of a back and forth. You know, some of these people haven't done the work. We can't issue the certificates. We've done the work. Our system is saying it's done, and a bit of a back and forth. And in my mind, and I get there's a need to protect the integrity of the product, and we want people having watched all the videos. But there's also the need to protect the integrity of the 100 people that have just come through this course, because they're our ambassadors. You know, let's just get their certificate, get them signed off, get it to them, and say, we're really sorry for this system failure. We appreciate you've done the work, and we'll go and work that out. But that wasn't really seen that clear. There seemed to be a bigger importance put on protecting the product rather than looking after the customer. Mm-hmm. And for me, I had said, listen, guys, we'll cut our losses, get the certificates issued. The people have went through the work, and we'll sort the mess out. And you know, being able to see that about your business, that ability that we need to look after our customers, we need to look after our people. Sometimes there might be a cost to our business for that. Let's take it. Let's take that cost. Let's take that hit. Because these people, these customers, these clients are way more important than that.
That's how you define a cost to a business, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
What if we fix this now? It's going to cost us 10 grand. What if we don't fix it now? It's going to cost us $1 million. It's going to cost us our business. And big decisions take big people to make the big decisions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin, we're at that time. We've gone beyond the time by a minute or two. If people, first of all, I want to thank you. I really enjoyed that. It's just kind of very refreshing approach to some of the work. I know you and I have discussed this offline in between the previous podcast and now, so thanks for coming along this morning. People want to catch up with you. How do they do it? What's the best way to catch you?
Website, www.in-mynd.com, in-mind.com. Send me an email, kevin@in-mind.com. Facebook, INMYND. All of those socials, which might get turned off in a month or two. So maybe best to email or through the website.
Yeah.
And if they're really, really lucky, Paul, they'll hear me singing a song somewhere online or something.
For sure, yeah, for sure. Are you running any kind of retreats or anything that you want to inform people about, or?
That would be brilliant. Thank you for the space, Paul. Yeah, we're running our retreat, funny, in your local town of Strangford on the 23rd of June, and that'll be over a Friday and Saturday night and into Sunday morning, and we will be looking there at a lot of mindfulness, meditation, some yoga, relaxation, and I'll be leading 4 or 5 workshops into self. You know, an introduction to self and understanding yourself, your behavioural patterns, your coping mechanisms. We'll be looking at addiction. We'll be looking at anger. We'll be looking at just looking at ourselves, and that's weekend 23rd of June.
I'll put all that stuff in the notes for the podcast, Kevin. I would say everything you've mentioned just in the last 30 seconds is worth a whole series of podcasts. It's very some brilliant work that you're obviously doing in Compassionate Inquiry. People will benefit from, whether it's just for personal or for their engagement and interaction with other people. I'm sure it'll be amazing. So I wish you very well with that.
And likewise, Paul, I love our conversations, and I love how we just land into them and never know where they go. And it's this sort of thing, Paul, even though we're over time, but this sort of thing for people to have a space for people, certainly in business, where they can go and have this conversation, this type of conversation, and they won't get laughed at, they won't get sneered at, they won't get judged. And I get that with you. I get a place where I can express myself authentically and know that it is being received as it's intended, which I really value, because sometimes when you go out into the world, our business world, and have these conversations, people are looking at you thinking, is your man on the wacky-backy, or has he been drinking the day, or what's the crack? So I really value this, Paul. So thank you.
It's a real pleasure. It's totally my pleasure, because you stimulated some thinking in the work that I do, and you'll always get people who will deny because of fear. They're afraid because they don't understand it, and they're afraid if they open up the box, like there's going to be a whole clusterfuck awaiting them, and that's the problem. There is a clusterfuck waiting for them, but it's not going to go away until you actually, I know that's not the language you might use in some of your sessions, but it's kind of, if you don't open the door, I think it's a big obligation you have to yourself to open as many of those doors as you possibly can. If you're really into authenticity, if you really want to take that journey, and I think everybody should do, because that's what we're here for, and you spend 60% of your life subsidizing the other 40, and if it's not right for you, like don't do it, like. But if you're going to change, if you're just going to change your job again and again and again, if you're going to just keep on recruiting people again and again and again, there's something fundamentally wrong with how you're approaching that problem.
You're here.
Dude, take it easy. Good luck with the retreat, and thanks very much again, Kevin. We'll I'll let you get on with the rest of your day.
You're a star. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Really see you soon.